And we sat there, and these guys explained this concept, and it was only a concept. And it was like, okay, so we want to put the yellow line on the field. And I said, great, what's it going to look like? And they said, well, we don't know because we haven't done it. But what we had at that moment, Howard and Cher, was this idea that if we could pull this off with these guys, that we could do something that would fundamentally change the NFL.
Welcome to Icons and Insights powered by C360, where the business of sports, technology, and broadcasting converge to create the immersive media economy. Now let's get into it with your hosts, Howard Wright and Cher Jones. So we know that 90% of Americans are using at least 2 devices when they're watching a game. Howard, how many do you use?
At least 2, and most recently I've been using 3. We have some live feeds that are coming from our cameras to some of our network and league partners. So that's my 3rd camera that I get to use and see.
Look at you, the digital savvy, tech savvy fan. I'm loving it. We're getting used to watching things on a smaller screen. I know you love your big 70-inch screen, but you're going to watch it on your phone, on your tablet, and other devices. And as well, historic broadcast rights continue to be negotiated. And it's like everything is happening at once. And that's why I am so excited for you to tell us about today's icon on the show. So tell me who you got for us.
I've been waiting for a while to land this partner, who is Jed Drake. So Jed Drake is an award-winning executive producer of 35 years at ESPN and 15, 16 different Emmys. And in addition to that level of expertise, he's a board member. He's on our executive staff. I might get a text from him at 5 o'clock in the morning. I might get an email from him at 5 o'clock in the afternoon asking, trying to find a way to progress the business. So he's a partner, he's a friend, he's a mentor, Jed Drake.
Well, Jed, can I tell you something? He's also called you a legend in the game behind your back. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Cher. It's delightful to have a chance to speak with you and continue our never-ending conversation, Howard and I, which will probably go on as soon as this recording is done.
Exactly. He's going to get that text. Oh, yeah. What about? I can just imagine. So let's think about what about. I want to get your take right now. There's these historic broadcast rights deals going up. They are happening left, right, and center. And I want you to set us up and just tell us your take on what's happening.
Well, I think there's several takes that are important to note. The first one is that the rights for sports continue to be incredibly important to a variety of providers, whether that be linear or digital, and there's no end in sight. In fact, I was just reading something today that was talking about the Warner merger with Discovery, and somebody posited that Netflix may have to get into the sports business because they need to be competing on all levels with those that have sports broadcasting. So that's really not too far afield. So what you've seen is a resumption, a renewal of rights in certain key areas for the traditional linear broadcasters. No changes, for example, in the NFL in terms of the core rights holders, except there is one huge difference and one piece that will come into play when the new rights deal starts now next year. And that, of course, is that Amazon will be the sole provider of live football game content on Thursday nights. And you can't overstate the sea change that signals in our industry. Now, of course, it takes a company with the financial wherewithal of Amazon to be able to pony up the kind of rights that are required for that. But it clearly signals that if the NFL can go to digital, that others will be, and they are. What you've seen in what ESPN has been able to do with ESPN Plus, they just got the La Liga rights for slightly exaggerating, but I think it's about 1 million years, and a key portion of that is going to be on ESPN Plus. So and of course the NHL deal, that one is. As Gary Bettman said when he announced it, it's good for the league, it's good for ESPN, and it's good for the fans. And So deals like that are the kind that are renewing everybody's validation of these enormous rights fees, but also signaling that they are going to be distributed in ways that make more sense now. Where, for example, ESPN has lost 15 million subscribers from the time when I was there, when we were at over 100 million at our peak in 2014. And you can look at what the loss would be, and I know what it is on the revenue income. So they had to go in a different direction, and the creation of ESPN Plus was vitally important. And when you look back at it now, it's like, seriously, what took them so long? Because they needed to do that. And of course, the great thing about the Walt Disney Company, saying as a 35-year cast member, is that when they get their teeth into something, they don't stop until they get it right. And boy, did they get it right. So in summary on the rights, linear broadcasters are renewed because in the end, entities like the National Broadcasting Company are virtually guaranteeing themselves to have the #1 over-the-air television program, continuing now for the last 8 years, probably for the next 8 years as well. And oh, by the way, did you see the little game that they got on October 3rd? Some guy named Brady coming back to play at Foxborough. Do you have any idea what that rating is going to be? And that's where linear can always still win, because they can just, have these tens of millions of people. That game will approach a Super Bowl number. But then what you're now seeing is, on the flip side, the NHL populating ESPN Plus and giving viewers the opportunity to get into content that they want to see on a more personalized basis. La Liga is on board with that now. There are other rights deals that are going to be coming up that may not have the weight and significance of some of the others. But IndyCar right now, there's a whole discussion whether IndyCar is going to stay with ABC or whether it's going to shift yet again after being at ABC for 40 years. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of money. There's a lot to win, and there's a whole lot of strategy going on that's coming into play right now. That's really fascinating to watch. And in the case of C360, ultimately, to take part in a very tangible way in terms of what we're going to be doing to participate in this evolution over to digital that in short order may become revolutionary as well.
So Cher, that's exactly, you've heard me talk about the immersive media economy, and it's really been born out of some conversations with Jed and some other mentors and board members, in terms of, there is no doubt at the top of the food chain, the leagues, who then sell their rights to the broadcasters. Now, the broadcasters have paid literally billions of dollars for these rights. The opportunity for a smaller company like ours, C360, is to provide some digital differentiation for those broadcasters. That is the opportunity through which we are looking at this, in terms of how quickly can we move, how quickly can we empower these broadcasters and the leagues. So Jed, coming back to that, the opportunity for us right now, is it velocity? Is it securing the right partnerships? Is it delivering the right product? Or is it all of the above?
It's absolutely all the above, Howard. And you're spot on, where these rights fees need to be monetized in ways that cannot be done just by the linear output. So sure, you've got now the digital distribution, but what do you have on top of that? What are these entities going to do to, in the end, prove to all of their rights holders that these were good bets that they've made? And the answer is the personalization. It's clear that the personalized sporting experience, Cher, you talked about it at the introduction, when Howard is watching an event on 3 screens, and that's not a shock. And what's going to be taking place now is this personalization, this individualization. It's been talked about for a long time, but when a person no less than Roger Goodell comes out and says, you know what, gambling's just fine on the NFL. Great. Okay. Well, that's a new story, and it's a good story for everybody because it's been going on forever. But now, with the NFL's blessing, what you will see is this personalized experience where people will be able to make prop bets and engage at a level that is, in some respects, in line with fantasy, but now you've got the added financial component. And of course, with that, there's the financial component for the individual. We're going to bet, $5 on Ben Roethlisberger scoring once he's in the red zone in the third quarter here, or on the whole exploitation of that service, if you will, by these rights holders to monetize that. Howard, we were talking earlier today, and let's just throw out a number. Let's say 1 million prop bets on a Sunday afternoon, not out of the realm of a possibility by any means. And for that service that's provided there, I'm sure that there are any number of entities that are going to want to have a piece of that monetization, and that because they're providing a service. And for C360, what this means is we will have the ability to provide that individualized experience. So as we talk about Ben Roethlisberger, I've got my program feed on one side of the screen or on a separate screen, and I'm seeing NBC's coverage of this. And over here, I've got Ben Roethlisberger, because guess what? I got $5 on him, and I really care about this now. And that's what we're going to be doing. And along with that, it's not just the simple gaming part, but there will be enriched content that will flow with that individualization. And then there will be the inevitable discussions that you would see social media envelop with that, where, so you've got, 1,000 people right now that got the $5 bet on Ben Roethlisberger. Well, guess what they're doing? They're all talking. And as that goes on, we, C360, are in that position of providing that video. And as a result, we will, as a company, be there to grab a part of that revenue stream in perpetuity. And everybody's holding up their hands and saying, this is what we want to do. The gamblers want to do it. The fantasy people want to do it on a lesser level, but still important. The commissioner wants to do it. Who's to say no? And we are right in the middle of that. And that's a really good place for us to be.
So, Jed, you didn't say it, but I heard from your comments, it's like we're in the center of this paradigm shift. And I think about the 180-degree turn from Gary Bettman and Goodell and others. It is the opportunity is just too grand. And now those leagues have embraced these partnerships with FanDuel and DraftKings and Caesars and MGM and others. That same paradigm, as it's shifting, when you were in the corner office there at ESPN, how did you determine how to take calculated risk and advance new technologies? Was it trial and error? Was there some sort of IRR NPV run on this? Was it a technologist or a technology company came to you? Walk us through some of the examples that actually are now commonplace, and folks probably don't know that you were behind some, if not most of it.
So I think one of the most important things is to recognize that the Walt Disney Company, where I was fortunate to work for 35 years, absolutely pushes forth the notion that you have to take risk, that there is no advancement in anything without risk. And now it has to be intelligent, it has to be thoughtful, but it doesn't have to succeed. And that's one of the great things. You and I have talked about Bob Iger's book at length, and it's one of the core traits that he talks about in successful leaders is recognizing the ability to take risks. So pragmatically, what that meant for us, it actually predated the Walt Disney Company coming into ESPN. But when we launched First and 10, we were in many ways at that time still the little engine that could, because the linear networks are still high and mighty, and there's ESPN, and you've got your half Sunday night NFL package. That's nice, and so for something as important as that has become as important as the First and 10 line, we were the last people that Sportvision came to. They went to ABC with Monday Night Football. They went to NBC. They went to CBS. They went to Fox, and they tried to peddle this idea, and nobody else bought it. So they finally came to us. And I remember with great clarity sitting in a room with Howard Katz, who was my boss, who went on to run ABC and then has been at the NFL forever. He's the guy, by the way, that oversees the schedule and put Brady into Fox.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is. And we sat there, and these guys explained this concept, and it was only a concept. And it was like, okay, so we want to put the yellow line on the field. And I said, great, what's it going to look like? And they said, well, we don't know because we haven't done it. But what we had at that moment, Howard and Cher, was this idea that if we could pull this off with these guys, that we could do something that would fundamentally change the NFL. And so it was a 9-month process that we funded and really kept SportVision alive, because I don't think that they would have succeeded as a business entity without us at that point. Trial and error. We wanted to be ready for the first game. We came out with press announcements about we're going to do this really cool thing, but we can't tell you what it is. And I remember being in Kansas City for the final preseason game, and the guys were with me, and we looked at the line offline, and we came out of the truck, and they said, so what do you think? And I said, it's not ready. I said, we're not putting on the air. We took another month, which was painful because we had already gotten approval from the commissioner at the time, Paul Tagliabue. And so we're like, okay, what are we going to do? Anyway, all of that doesn't matter because we finally did launch it. And the day after we launched it, no less than Don Ohlmeyer, who is considered to be one of the godfathers, if you will, of sports broadcast, one of Roone Arledge's key staff members. He sent a note to Steve Bornstein the next day and said, you know, what I just saw on your game Sunday night, he goes, it's as big as when I put handheld cameras on football. And he goes, who knows, it might be someday even bigger. Congratulations. So that was one of those where we just accepted risk and we said, you know what, we're going to do it. And it turned out to be a huge hit. There have been a lot of other things like that. From there, I sort of, one of the things is about risk taking, when you do it and it works,
Yeah.
you get a little bit of cred, right? So now you can kind of be a little bit crazier and nutty. And that's when I said, okay, I want to do the strike zone. I actually, I want to see something that everybody talks about on every pitch, but nobody can see. Really easy concept, really hard to do. It was my idea. I went back to the SportVision guys and I said, all right, so here's what I want to do. I got this really big project for another sport category, but you're going to have to sign an NDA because I'm not telling you what it is until we have an agreement. Sign the NDA. Great. What do you want to do? I want to build the strike zone. Oh, we were going to do that. Well, guess what? It's too late.
And NDA, baby.
NDA. So that took another year to do it. We did it. And by the way, going to George Bodenheimer, our president, I had to ask his permission because this is going to be another $1 million in development. And he said, so what's going to happen? And I said, well, 3 things are going to happen, George. We're going to launch this thing. We're going to get great response from our fans. Some will be positive, some will be negative, but then they'll accept it. Then we're going to sponsor it. So we're going to pay for the damn thing. We're then going to give ESPN brand exclusivity, which will be the haves and the have-nots, because we're going to sign this deal with SportVision to build it for us and to make sure that nobody else can do it. And then I said, when we're all done with that, we're going to win an Emmy for it. And we did all the above.
Proof is in the back. So
Yeah.
Tell me, with all these innovations you've seen, and you've pioneered a lot of these innovations to what they are today, what are the broadcasters what do they have to do next to satisfy the fan that we've got now?
Well, again, what we've been talking about is the personalization of the viewing experience. And look, all of these leagues, it's well known. All of these leagues have spent millions upon millions of dollars in creating tracking systems that track these players. And I remember back in 2014 when the NFL first came to us and said, we're going to install all of these systems in all of the stadiums, and we're going to provide this data to you folks for a fee. And it's going to change the way that you guys view sports in terms of the data and how you look at statistics and all of this. And they were wrong, because there wasn't the visual aspect of their data that could provide any tangible difference at the time. Now, they've done some very cool things with the data since then, and I applaud them for what they've been able to do. But I think, in my view, data is obviously just a form of information. It's what you do with that information that ultimately has an impact. And so to me, and saying as a board member of C360 with our CEO, Howard, that it's absolutely certain that taking this data, whether it's, you know what, you can just say any one of the leagues, because they're all tracking players in various capacities and with different kinds of systems. The great thing about C360 is we are completely agnostic, thanks to our CTO, Brian Lowry, and his cast of many characters. And taking that data stream and visualizing with it all of the things that are happening on the field in a way that can be personalized is something that I think is inevitable. It is going to happen. And given the impetus based upon the things that we've most recently discussed here, whether that's fantasy or gaming or any other aspect, it's going to happen sooner than later. And it's like Bettman says, you know what? In the end, it's a beautiful thing. Everybody wins. The rights holders get a new way to monetize their rights. The fan gets a new way to have a more personalized emotional experience based upon that viewing. And C360 is all too happy to be there to provide this kind of service on a perpetual level that connects the rights holders to the viewers in a very tangible, meaningful, and personal way.
So, Jed, I joined in November of last year, but you were already there as kind of a little bit of the oracle. People spoke of you and about you in revered tones, and I understand why. You helped either interview me or recruit me. I guess I never asked you, though, why C360? Of all the things, of all the awards that you have behind you, of all the things, your Hall of Fame career has been written already. What made you, or who enticed you to come and spend some time with little old us?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I'm thrilled that we made the right decision in bringing you on board, and it's been a delight, and it continues to be every day. And I don't mean to patronize you. I apologize for that, but you know, the leadership starts at the top. Yes, my entrance predated your arrival, and I'm gonna say a line that was given to me by the executive editor of ESPN, a gentleman by the name of John Walsh, who had a wonderfully eclectic background before he came to ESPN, having been coming from the print business, having been the editor-in-chief of U.S. News and World Report and Rolling Stone. Talk about dichotomy. In any case, what John would always say to us is, Jed, when in doubt, hire intelligence. In other words, go where you will, do what you will, surround yourself with good people, and give them direction, and good things will happen. So with C360, Howard, it was conversations that ensued with people like Evan and Brian and Dave Fisher, and you know, I found there to be a real spirit of possibility. That we can do this. It's not clear that we're going to be successful at it, but we know we can do it. If things work out right, if we have put ourselves in the right situations, we can do some incredibly cool things. Now, timing being what it was, these guys had just come back from Korea doing the Olympics, and so they had that going for them, and they had just been nominated for an Emmy, their first of 2 Emmy nominations with Fox on Skycam. And I saw that, and I was like, you know, okay, so somewhat selfishly, okay, these guys obviously have something going on here. So there was that sort of key moment there for me, but it was fundamentally based upon who these guys were and how they told the story of what they wanted to do. And I will tell you, you know, in my job at ESPN for all those years, I can't tell you how many companies came to me, like SportVision did, and you know, pitched some kind of either great system or great idea. I will tell you there's a commonality there. And it's back to John Walsh. When in doubt, hire intelligence. We talk about Brian Lowry being this brilliant individual who is our chief technology officer. And at SportVision, there was a gentleman by the name of Stan Honey, who happens to be a good friend to this day. And he was the chief technology guy. He was the guy that would go to David Hill when those guys were still at Fox and News Corp. And he would have lunch with David for an hour. And Stan would just talk about the things in this wonderfully meaningful, sort of direct tone about what could be done. And clearly, David was taken with Stan. And I have been too. And so, all the way back, when in doubt, hire intelligence, have people with vision. They can't guarantee their success because there are going to be things that may just be out of their realm of possibility. But you know what? Back to risk taking. These are good people to take risks with because I like their direction. I like their thinking. I like their level of intellect. And I applaud their enthusiasm. And those are the things that led me to C360.
And Howard, let me ask you a question. So what is it about Jed, other than the 5 a.m. text that you get or 3 a.m. text, that's okay. But what else do you love? If you were to name one thing that you love about working with Jed, what is it?
I'm not going to give you one. I'm going to give you several because I'm a rule breaker here, which is I've often found, and maybe it goes back to academia, where a professor can explain to you in proper English with all the chronology and all the facts what happened way back when as it related to some vertical and some opportunity, some window. Very few folks can explain that to you and then show you a little bit further into the future than you can see yourself. Mm-hmm. Be a pragmatist, but also a calculated risk taker with those years of success that are embodied in those Emmys. That combination is very, very unique. Some people can explain to you what happened in certain eras. Some are futurist and can get you to an opportunity quicker than others. I've met very few folks that have the combination of kind of the deep well of knowledge, as well as the processor to take the calculated risk to put you in the position to be successful. That's why we're so excited to have Jed as a part of this company, and I'm so excited as a relatively young CEO to have him as a mentor and a friend. So Jed, what is the best day of your professional career, and what is the worst day of your professional career, and why for both?
Okay. And this is the iconic question that we ask every single one of our icons to get the insight. So we look forward to getting yours.
I see. All right. Well, aside from technology, I was involved in good old big time production, right? So the big events, and those all fell on my watch for many, many years. It's a 3-event parlay, if such a thing is possible, to explain it. In 2006, I had on my watch what for me at that point was my 4th World Cup. It was in Germany, which is clearly one of the most important countries ever in the World Cup. We did what in hindsight was a really bad job at televising it. And we tried to Americanize the World Cup because we thought that was how we would bring the event to a greater US audience. This was our play. It was a calculated risk. And I took Dave O'Brien, God love him, one of our lead baseball guys, and I made him our lead announcer on the World Cup. And it was, Dave, I love him to this day, it was not a good outcome. And we didn't spend the resources. We didn't give the World Cup what it wanted. And I think Univision actually beat us in the end. And it was an embarrassment. And fortunately, the CEO of, actually at the time, he was executive vice president in charge of programming, John Skipper, is a huge soccer fan. And I had a chat with him about 6 months after, and I said, John, we got to do better. This is an embarrassment to this event, and it's an embarrassment to ESPN. And he goes, you know what, Jed? He's from North Carolina. I love imitating him. Jed, you know what? You're right. He goes, why don't you think about this for a while and come back to me? So flash forward about a year and a half after doing a lot of deep thinking. ESPN had put in place something, George Bodenheimer had put in something in place called the company priorities, where each year we would have sort of a 3-day seance, the top 50 executives in the company offsite, and we would come back with the company priorities. And some of them would be, pretty obvious, like support Sports Center, support revenue growth. The first one was ratings. We got to get our ratings better. We got to get our ratings better. So at this one, I threw out a flyer. I said, I want to make World Cup 2010 in South Africa a company priority. I want to see us get all 7,000 employees behind this thing. And when you have a company priority, interesting things happen. And I used to call it the tiebreaker, because no matter what department you went to at ESPN, everybody was too busy. So, for example, you would go to creative and you would say, here's where I want to go with this World Cup animation. I want to do this. We're going to do a whole new music pack. Well, we're really busy. Time, because what had happened? I had gotten the World Cup as a company priority, and Skipper was right there with me, and it changed everything. Now, along the way, I will tell you that the budget going into South Africa was probably already double what it was for Germany, because it's a much more difficult country to come from, just not geographic distance, but it was a lot more money. And then on top of that, I almost doubled it, and I got Skipper's approval for it. And what happened? We changed the whole dynamic of what would be the focus. We weren't going for the casual guy and saying, gee, this is the World Cup, everybody's happy now. No, we went for the expert. We hired the best announcers we could on the planet. We hired the best commentators that we put on. Our host set was Mike Tirico, Chris Fowler, and Bob Lee. Next item. We crushed it. We put every resource we possibly could. So to answer your question, and by the way, we were nominated for 12 Emmys. We blew the ratings out of the water, because our strategy had been go for the expert, and then the casual viewer will follow from the sheer spectacle of it. And it worked. We like the ratings over Germany were like 40% higher. I mean, numbers you would not even dare contemplate. And we were nominated for 12 Emmys. We won 3. And it was an all-out hit. A problem happened right after that, though. We made the World Cup such a huge event. By the way, back for the best day was when we made World Cup 2010 a company priority. We blew it out of the water. The rating, the rights now, all the way back to our discussion earlier, the rights for the 2018 and 2022 World Cup were now going to be negotiated. We had 14 wrapped up in Brazil because it was part of a 2-event package. So in 2011, the rights come up. We had paid $100 million for the rights for both South Africa and Brazil, $100 million for both of them. Fox came in for 18 and 22, not even knowing where those were going to be. Just, we want the World Cup. They came in, we offered $400 million, and it was a closed bid. They came in at 505, not 500, because closed sealed bid. They thought we might come in at 500 and the incumbent would win. They went 505, and they got it. So now we're 3 years out from the World Cup that we had seen as, the next big one in Brazil. And I went to Skipper and I said, so John, here's what we're going to do. And he's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to make South Africa look like the warm-up act. And he goes, all right, Jed, you're on. Let's do it. And we
That's
did.
Right.
And we increased the budget. And I said to people, I don't care that it's our last World Cup. I said, we are going to set the bar so friggin' high for Fox that they are going to have a hell of a time when ultimately what became was Russia. And so what did we do? Well, let's see. We increased the ratings yet again. We spent a lot more money, but guess what we did? Even on the sales that were scheduled to be so high, we even blew past that to the tune of $45 million. We were nominated for more Emmys, and we cemented ESPN's reputation for excellence finally, not as an aberration in 2010, but as a trend and something that we could put up on a pedestal to say, you know what, we did it right. And across the soccer world, to a person, they agreed. And then, then we closed the door, and that was it. So best day was when we turned the tide on 2010. The worst day was when we faded to black in Brazil and said, done and dusted, we're out.
And so now you see everybody has, CBS has the Paramount Plus, ESPN Plus, NBC has the Peacock, and others.
Yeah.
You draw a line of distinction in terms of the quality, the fidelity, or the imagination that you must draw when you're creating a product for one of those partners? Do you see a difference between OTT and broadcast, or is that line of demarcation still very, very thin?
I think it's. I think inevitably, to be candid about it, I think you're going to continue to see big budget projects on linear for the foreseeable future. You know, the NBA playoffs and finals, the Sunday night footballs, the Monday night footballs. ESPN just renewed their baseball deal, although it's a much smaller deal, which opens the door for somebody else, which is always the way these things happen. But I do think, Howard, that you're going to see a more economic model that is going to flow to the OTT side of things. I think it's inevitable because you've got higher volume and smaller audiences, right? So you've got to figure out a way to as you would say, thread the needle between showing something that is of good quality, but it's not going to be at the quality of Sunday Night Football, where 30 million people are watching at any moment, versus the maybe the 300,000 or 400,000 that might be watching the Columbus Blue Jackets play. To the Columbus Blue Jackets fan, that's a very important game. I got it. But that audience is also going to accept probably a lower level of ambition, because they understand, that's like, one game of a hockey season versus this, mammoth event on linear. So I think there will be an economization of there. But again, back to what we will be doing is we'll be personalizing that experience. So we'll be augmenting it with content that will be relevant to that Columbus Blue Jackets fan. I'm sorry to pick on, I'm not really picking on Columbus, but it was like in the back of my head, okay, a smaller city with a major franchise, and there you go. So that's where the art's going to come, and that's where the fun's going to come, right? Is how do we appeal to or create a system that appeals to that fan, that they don't care that maybe there's only 4 cameras on that, or maybe those cameras, Howard, are actually not even manned. Maybe they're just following the action because they can.
Wouldn't that be cool if somebody came up with a company and did that for the broadcasters?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just think about that. Oh, we're doing that. That's right. That's right. So that those kinds of things are going to happen. And you know what? And it's all this. We could have this conversation 5 years from now, and that's one of the fun things about this, that we might not have any idea what else is going to come up that's going to maybe turn the course here of this massive ship that's moving down through this vast amount of rights and distribution. But without question, we in the personalization of content are going to be in the center of it. I'm absolutely convinced.
Yeah, so am I, Jed. We keep explaining to folks that this is a $1 trillion immersive media economy that's being created right now, and we aspire to be a $1 billion company inside of that's using video as a service.
Yes. And
I just wanted to say to you and to Cher and everybody that's listening, I've said it to you before, I want to say it publicly though, appreciate the friendship. I appreciate the mentorship. I appreciate that you demand a velocity and a craftsmanship from our product, not just technically, but when we go to an event and how we interact with staff, senior executives there. It will make the difference in this company, and for that, I am forever thankful, Jed.
Well, thank you, Howard, and right back at you. We've got a great team, and it's nice to have somebody really smart from Stanford driving the bus here. And I've never had the pleasure of working with a Stanford grad, but I'm sure as heck pleased that I'm doing so now, and then an MBA career to boot. So, it doesn't get any better than this. So, the beauty of that is that when you speak of certain things that happen, whether they be competitive or in the sports world, we all understand immediately that from where you speak. And that's one of your many great qualities. And it's a shining light every day that we have the fun to do what we do.
Well, I love it. And I do not love ending this conversation because it's been epic. We learned a lot. There's so much to take away from this fantastic icon, Howard. So the fact that you chose him, it's the obvious choice. But Jed, you brought the insight today. And I'd like to thank you for joining us on Icons and Insights.
It's been a great pleasure, Cher. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jed.
Thank you.